Welcome to the Great Distraction.
Welcome back, guys and gals. This is the Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is carry less. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Thomas.
How's it going?
And Rick.
Hey, everybody.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and a random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. All right, this is kind of a... I'm going to go to kind of a little deep topic here. It's I got to give some preemptive information on
got some heartfelt things to get out.
I got some. Yeah, this is a deep one. Hits me right here. When I was in college, I was I've always been a nerd, but I was a nerd in college for sure.
That's when you professionalized it.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's when I perfected the nerdism, right? And during college, I used to carry a lot of crap on my person. And partly was because my particular school, you parked, let's just say in between classes, you were not going back to your car and there weren't lockers or anything. So what you had on you, you'd hop on the shuttle most of the time to get into campus and get to your classes. And what you had on you is what you were going to have for the whole day. And my major was pretty demanding, so I was there from like 7 in the morning, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night, every day early, all the way. Anyway, so I had to carry a lot of crap with me. I had to carry everything I needed for the day on me because I wasn't going to go back to my car unless something happened. So I mean, when I mean everything, including my nerd stuff, it was my backpack, all my books, my binders, my laptop case, with the laptop in it, of course, my phone. I had an iPod and not these light ones. Back then, you didn't have both of them built into one unit. It was your large cell phone and your 20 gig or whatever hard drive iPod, the good old days, right?
Good old days.
So I had that on me. I'd have a PDA of some sort. I always had PDAs to try and keep myself organized. I don't even know if anybody remembers what PDAs were, but your Palm Pilot or your iPac or whatever. And then I have a lunch bag, right? So this is a whole bunch of crap I'm carting around with me.
I suppose you didn't have like a wheelbarrow or something.
Dude, so yeah, I used to think
he's that guy at college.
I should have had one of those pulling,
radio
luggage.
flyer.
No, yeah, a wagon. No, I was thinking more of the rolling suitcase things.
Yeah.
Like man, I should have had one of those instead of.
You should have just had a keg on wheels. You could have cracked open.
Nice. It's all on that red flyer wagon. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
That would definitely bump up your street credit for nerdism.
Oh,
your college experience would have been a lot different, I'm sure.
You glassed over the nerd items. What is nerd paraphernalia that you carry?
So I used to wear the PDA on my belt.
You had a holster?
Oh yeah, I had a holster.
Oh, you went full blown.
And I had it gets better. And I had the holster for the iPod. Because they were huge. It didn't fit my pocket,
You had a fucking full-blown utility belt.
Oh, yes.
Batman status.
Wow. Yes. This is how I made it through my days, though, and it was hard, man. That's engineering's no joke, man. A lot of stuff to do and carry with you, and of course the books are not light either. I had a huge backpack and the binders to keep all your notes. Anyway, whatever.
Back problems.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised I don't actually. Anyway, so sometime after I graduated and got out of that, having to carry all that, it stuck with me having all that stuff with me. And I guess what also played into it too is I kind of have that mentality where always be prepared, right? So it's like, well, what do you need? You're not going to be able to make it back to home base, your car, or home, because I also drove like 45 to an hour or something like that to get home from home to school. So there was no going back home if you forgot something. I didn't live on campus or whatever. My school is very much a commuter school. So, you always want to be prepared and have everything you need for the day, which takes a lot of crap. It's like every time I see like a young couple with a baby, their first baby or something, I kind of think along these same lines too. It's like, man, they got to bring everything in the kitchen sink.
You never know what's going to happen.
Dude, they got multiple bags. It's like, man, that sucks. You got to buy the minivan just so you can carry all the crap so you can leave the house, right? So I know a lot of people can relate to this mentality. But nevertheless, I didn't have the baby for justification for this purpose. only the baby of the problem, the baby of the problem of my own worries and concerns, right?
It was your diploma.
Yeah, well, that's what led to it. But anyway, So after I graduated and I got a job, I kept trying to live this way because I was kind of used to it.
Because you like stuff.
Well, that too, but you know, that's part of my nerd problem anyway. But nevertheless, I kept trying to carry these things with me that I don't know why, because it felt after 6 years in college, it felt right. You know?
You were comfortable.
I was comfortable with having this, knowing that I had these tools at my disposal, right? Should I need it?
You were institutionalized.
I was institutionalized. That's right. Definitely desensitized to the back-breaking work that's involved in carrying your life with you in your little camel shell. Yeah. Anyway, so something happened though. And it was the kind of the oddest thing that got me thinking more about this, and the point behind this, what began this topic, so to speak. I bought my first car. I'm sorry, I should have taken that back. I bought my first car with push-button start. And it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but at the time, there were not really many cars out there that had the push-button start feature. I think pretty much everybody has seen push-button start now. You don't have to pull a key out of your pocket. You just leave the fob in there, and you go up and you press the button, and you start the car, right? That, for some weird reason, got me thinking and completely changed my approach to daily living. It put in my mind the concept that I could do an everyday task. I drove a lot, so commuting was something I did every day and thought a lot about. It put in my mind that I could do an everyday task like that without touching anything in order to do it. And it just, again, this is a very simple concept that planted this seed in my mind. So when I got this car, it was a little advanced for the time, so a lot of cars didn't have these features, but nevertheless, and now pretty much all the cars have them, but you had a key fob in your pocket, you had your phone that had Bluetooth, and you have Bluetooth in your car. So the concept was I walked up to the car, touched the door handle, it unlocked, opened the door, sat in the seat, pressed the button to turn the car on, the stereo, which streamed from my iPod at the time or my phone later or whatever, automatically paired to the stereo, and my music started playing. I could control it from the screen or whatever, and I drove. When I was done, I pressed the button, I got out of the car, touched the door handle, locked, and then I walk away. I didn't fiddle with anything in my pocket for the lady, or my wallet or anything for the ladies out there. You didn't have to grab anything out of your purse. Now this sounds, we all know about this now because this is pretty commonplace. Pretty much everybody can do this now. Whether or not they make an effort to do this, you can essentially do this with most vehicles now and have your driving experience be about the same. The driving experience wasn't necessarily the important thing. The interesting thing was that after I started realizing and thinking, wait a minute, I don't have to touch anything to do this. This is kind of like hands-free. This is really cool. I started thinking about what I carried in my pockets as a result of this. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I'm not grabbing a key out of my pocket to put into the ignition, messing with that, grabbing my phone, plugging in the cable into the bottom like I used to have to, whatever. If I'm fiddling with less, and I've been able to eliminate a certain amount of things from this part of my life every day, what else do I carry that I can get rid of? So I used to carry a keychain with me, and I had a bunch of keys on there, right? Like most people have a whole bunch of keys on their...
Were you like janitor status? Or
no, I was never that bad, thankfully. But we will get into a couple of people I have met that are like that. And so I started thinking, well, wait a minute. If I don't need to pull the key out, I don't need to carry this particular key with me like that anymore because I don't need to worry about it. So if I can simplify that, and I don't have to take my phone out, I don't have to mess with anything, what else can I get rid of to further simplify this task every day? So I started looking at what other keys that were on there. And I saw, okay, there's I had a post office box key, I had a key to the side gate, I had a key to the side door, I had a key to my house. So I started going through, it's like, wait a minute. How often do I go to the post office? I don't even go out that often. Maybe I can just leave that key in the car. How often do I get into the side gate in the side of my house? Never. Maybe I'll throw that on a key ring and throw it in my house or whatever, not use it, not carry it with me every day. I started thinking of the side gate door. There was a bunch of keys on there that I had. And I'm thinking, this is freaking stupid. What do I need all this crap for?
Did you find that one that you couldn't figure out what it went to?
Oh, yeah. No, because I didn't carry that many keys. They all had purpose. But so I started kind of, in a sense, looking to lighten the load. And regarding the keys in my life, for the last 15 years maybe, I've only carried one key with me, and that is the fob for the vehicle. The only other key that I had a little trouble getting rid of at first was the house key. Well, I thought, well, this car has, most cars have the built-in garage door opener. What the hell am I carrying a house key for? I don't use the front door anyway. I go in through the garage door, through the garage after I open the garage door and walk in through the the door into the house or whatever. So I didn't need that key either. And perhaps it was motivated by years of carrying too much stuff in the first place that this thought just kind of really freaking fascinated me. I was like, damn, dude.
You can go 180.
That's it. It's like, how much can I not carry now as opposed to...
I don't even need clothes.
Just walk around barefoot, whatever. And then as technology, advanced too, I mean, and this, again, all this stuff affected everybody too. It's the same. But this is how it kind of led into how much larger I can grow this idea. We didn't have to carry a separate iPod with our phone anymore because they became one when the iPhone came out and started. You put music on your phone, right? You didn't have to carry a PDA because your phone became your PDA, your personal digital assistant. For those that don't remember the schedulers and whatever, it's like all these things started condensing down over time, and it started getting easier and easier to do this. Well, like I said, I started living with this concept of actively pursuing a reduction of what I carry physically in my pockets every day for years. And that stuck with me, and it kept being something I kept putting effort into and kept trying to reduce, and carry as little as possible. And it wasn't until a few years later, or whatever, I met one of my coworkers at the time. We'll call him Bob. And Bob, he pulled out the janitor key ring, right? And I sat there with him one time. He works in our warehouse, one of our warehouses, and at that job I had. And we were sitting there bored one day. It was whatever, it was just the two of us or whatnot. So I tell him, dude, I've seen you pull out your car keys, right? And you've got this like 4-inch ring, feel like a damn janitor, 4-inch ring filled with keys. So it's like, dude, let me see your key ring. We start going through his key ring. We start looking. Okay, what is this key to? Oh, it was like the most obscure thing ever. I was like, dude, what is this key for? What is this key for? We gotta go through his whole ring, trying to figure out, what the hell, trying to get him to tell me what the hell all of his keys are for, right? And I'm like, man, you just named 90% of the keys on your key ring that you do not need to carry with you every single day. You are at work right now. Why do you need the key to the side gate of your mother's house, in the next town over? I mean, you're not going to go there after.
Might be an emergency.
I mean, and some of the keys were redundant for things. It's like, well, this is if I go in through this door in my house, and this is if I go in through this door in my house. Well, why don't you change the locks, which isn't as expensive as it used to be back then, to one key, so you don't need 3 keys to get into your house. Just going through the concept of reducing what it is you carry. So he had a whole bunch of crap in there. And then there's also guys I have seen with these fat wallets. This was another
those
thing
are the worst. I've never had that,
dude. And
because I've always been broke.
Well, no, it ain't cash that they got in there.
Oh,
right?
I know.
Receipts and shit.
It's receipts, and it's like 4
And
IDs,
credit cards.
7 credit cards that are expired.
Right. I mean, some guys have this problem so bad that they've worn spots into their jeans.
Dude, I had a buddy who had back problems, and they linked it to his wallet.
Wow.
Because he was
Because
driving.
how he was
He drove all the time. And he was sitting all weird, and he had the wallet, giant wallet, and there was nothing in there that he even used.
One ass cheek's all deformed.
Right.
Got a wallet dent in it.
That's So I mean, okay. So there's another example, right? I've talked to over the years as I've thought about that. I've talked to guys too about who carry too much in their wallet. What do you need 7 credit cards for? You're not going to charge 7 things to 7 credit cards.
That sounds like
anymore.
a spree. Instead of a day.
That's
your average day. That's when you go to Vegas. I need all 7 credit cards.
Or a risk, yeah. If you
What
lose
if you
it.
lose your wallet? You've got 7 credit cards floating around.
I would
out
think,
there.
yeah, that's true. You got to have 2 or 3 wallets now.
No.
And 2 or 3 key rings.
And back in the day, you'd have more of
You got
these.
to diversify that shit.
Back in the day, you had more department cards too, so there was more reason to have more credit cards, I guess.
You got a
if you
J.C.
will.
Penney card, a Sears card,
Don't forget the Mungie Wards, dude.
right? Montgomery Ward's card.
Yeah. So okay. So, but then the same argument was with them. It's like, why don't you take those out and leave them in your safe at home? Like, why are you even carrying all that with you? Doesn't make any sense. And at first, I only noticed this situation with men, and I was expanding this over time, and I foolishly thought that this only applied to men. Well, then I started paying more attention to women and what they carry.
A purse?
Oh, the purse.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I'm going with this. So
Did you go
The
into
purse
a
that you can never find anything
Holy
in.
crap, dude! The amount of stuff that some girls carry in these purses, and there's a joke, maybe it's just among men, that the older a girl gets, the larger her purse gets because she carries more and more stuff. Right? Young girls are the only ones that can.
She's got a lot of baggage.
Well,
What you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's one way of putting
That
it.
old
or
girl's
whatever, but
got
it's
some
like-
baggage. Look at that thing.
It's just like they find more reason to carry more stuff as you go along life. You think, when you're young, you start off with when a girl's young, she'll start off with the little stuff, the lip balm, or maybe some I don't know, some mascara, makeup, or something that they can reapply throughout the day that they're going to need, or they need feminine products or whatever. Okay, that's cool. But as time goes on, I should add some eyeshadow in there too. I should add some blush in there too. I should add this. What about lotion? I need hand sanitizer and lotion. Oh, I need toilet wipes. You start thinking of all this crap that you need to add to your kit to get you through the
travel
day.
bag.
Yeah, so your bag gets bigger. And I guess that's where the concept is that, as a woman gets older, she carries more stuff because she realizes there's more stuff that I need to carry in order to get through the day. But maybe you don't. So the same concept can apply, and I don't really have the balls, shall we say, to go start talking to women about, hey, let's go through your purse. What do you need this shit for?
I should have loaned you my ferret.
What?
Remember my ferret, Mary?
No, what is that?
When I was younger, we used to have my roommate and we took over an
Oh,
animal.
that's right. You told me this.
And there's a ferret named Mary, and we'd bring girls over and she'd get into their purses, and they thought it was cute because another girl's getting in their purse, and it's the ferret taking everything out of their purse. Condoms, diaphragms, tampons,
Nice.
all kinds of stuff.
Only the good stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. It was funny.
Terrible. So, again, the same thing was totally applicable to women as well. Is just basically starting off the question or the process, because that's ultimately what this is going to lead to, of asking a person, why do you need all this stuff, each individual thing, and what can you get rid of? What do you not need to carry with you? So as time went on, because I'm just this type of sick person, I have to find deeper meanings for everything. Everything is a kind of a rabbit hole, right? There's always something more. I saw the movie, and I actually, when I was putting these notes together, I read that it came out in 2009. The movie was called Up in the Air. I don't want to go too far into the movie because it's just it plays a small part in this, but it definitely did give me a slightly different direction to go to applying this. Real quick, in the movie, George Clooney plays a character that, among other things, gives motivational speeches and on basically lightening the load of life. And his angle is by reducing the weight of the relationships and the involvement in people around us. So not that I'm going in this direction, but it was an interesting concept, and it was something that stuck with me and helped me expand this topic out further. The whole point is that some of the relationships that we're involved in life and some of the people in our lives are a heavy, can be a heavy burden, a heavier burden than we realize. And his metaphor for it, or an analogy, where's Glenn? I always get those two confused. It's kind of like filling up your backpack was what his analogy was. And then this backpack is a weight, that after enough time and after enough baggage starts to cut into your shoulders and become a burden that holds you back and holds you from achieving things in life. So I thought, okay, well, maybe not applied to relationships just right now, but the concept is kind of exactly what I've been going for with this keys concept, or with this what you carry in your pocket every day. I combined that with a couple of people I had worked with to reduce the number of keys in their pocket. Bob, in particular, came back and said, dude,
He's just Bo.
Now he's just, no. Now he's just Bo. He reduced even his name. I like it. I need that extra B on there.
There's already one in there.
That was redundant.
Yeah, on Bob's key ring, how many of those keys on that ring do you think he didn't know what they were for, but he just made something up?
There were so many on that key ring. There's no way I thought that it would look like he had just been collecting so long.
I think he was a hoarder.
That's a whole nother topic, and some of this stuff we're going to talk about is going to touch on that, but I don't want to, because hoarding is a different psychological condition that affects you, that works differently.
Like impulsive behavior.
Yeah, it's like more like an OCD type thing, and that's not where I'm going to go with this. But yes, because I thought of the same thing. I was like, wow, well, this is like branching on hoarding, because some people can keep all these keys and not be a hoarder at home. It's just there's other reasons. We'll get into that. Why sometimes you can't let go, or you don't know how to handle this certain item. So you just, what have I done with it in the past? Well, I just had it with the rest of them, right? I think he did not know what a lot of them were because he had just gotten used to, I've got a key, I'll put it on a key ring. I've got a key and key ring, they go together. Now I carry it with me, And since he only had one key ring, he didn't think, where else would it go? This is the one key ring. I gotta carry my keys with me that I need. So there it goes, right? And so Bob had come back to me. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Bob had come back to me and told me, dude, I wish I would have thought about doing this before. And like he actually expressed that it had been an improvement on his life. Wow. You know, I mean, he wasn't tearing holes in his pant pockets anymore from all these keys poking through his jean pockets. You know, I mean, among other things, right? So he was pleased with results. And I imagine your buddy, had he not been jamming his ass full of an oversized wallet for so many years, he was probably pretty happy when the doctor said, "Dude, you don't need that much crap." you know, it improved the quality of their lives.
Made his back better.
Yeah, it improved the quality of both of these people's lives, and that's pretty crazy to think about. That like something as simple as reducing the amount of keys in your pocket can actually make your life better. So I started thinking that this is a concept that could possibly be a metaphor for how we live our life. Now it's going to vary from person to person or whatever, but I thought that it could be a metaphor for how I live my life and how I could possibly change a few things. Namely, starting with what kinds of excess do we carry with ourselves every day that we don't need, and how much of that excess has actually become a burden on our lives. And I mean, the effects of that can be all kinds of stuff. I mean, just weighing you back mentally, something weighing you back physically can in turn affect you mentally and hold you back mentally. And this type of baggage can actually make life less pleasant and keep you from advancing forward beyond whatever, in different aspects of your life. And I'm going to keep reiterating, going back to, it's weird that this, it starts off with just keys or whatever in this example. But this type of baggage can also translate into emotional baggage, and that's where the topic got a whole lot more opened up and a whole lot deeper. Because now if we can tie carrying these things with us physically, we can kind of begin to separate out or pick further into things that you may be carrying emotionally with yourself that you don't need. And similarly, as one can, maybe a big-ass key ring can slow you down from running, perhaps emotional baggage could slow you down from success, achieving your goals, falling in love. I mean, there's any number of negative results that can happen as a result or as a cause or an effect of that burden that you're carrying with you. So I kind of wanted to get further into applying this into mental or emotional baggage. And some of this is going to touch on, if you haven't had a chance, there's another episode that we did on emotions, and it was only a couple of earlier than this one. So if you're curious about this kind of stuff, you might be interested in listening to that one, because I'm going to tie it back to how we generate emotions and how emotions can preemptively manifest themselves based on previous experiences when we first generated those emotions. And in that sense, what I wanted to grab from that is that emotions can kind of be in a way like muscle memory. The emotional responses of experiences we have stay with us, and they are recalled or even repeated when similar experiences are had, at a current time. However, when we have experiences that warrant emotional responses that confuse us or that we don't get a chance to fully process, it kind of leaves an unfinished emotional baggage, basically unresolved emotional issues. And that sounds ridiculous to apply to keys, but again, we're trying to expand this out into larger emotional situations or larger events and experiences that happen in a person's life that can leave behind this unprocessed or incomplete emotional processing that can stick with you and then affect you negatively in other aspects of life. And if we can't work past it, we're forced to deal with it over and over and over again. It kind of remanifests itself over and over again whenever something similar occurs. So I want to take it in a couple of different ways. Going back to the key application, it's kind of funny, but one of the things I was mentioning with Bob, if Bob had accumulated X number of keys in his life, and starting with the first one, didn't know what to do with it. So he takes the key, and he's like, well, I don't want to lose it because I might need it. I don't want to put it away because I might forget where I put it and then not find it again when I need it. But I know I'm going to need it at some point, so I'm going to throw it on the keychain. it's a little bit of a stretch, but that kind of feels to me like his emotional reaction to that key and what to do with it was confusion. And that's where he left off with it. The next key that comes in, same thing, with a similar circumstance, same thing. Well, I couldn't really figure out what to do with this one, but what did I do with that last one? Oh, I stuck on the key ring. Okay, well, there you go.
He's developed a pattern.
He's developed an emotional response that's repeating itself every time. Let me take a step back. He's recalling an unfinished emotional response every time he recalled, based on that first experience, reinforced by every following experience, and then reiterating itself or reviving itself each time. So he's doing the same thing over and over and over again, accumulating these stupid keys that obviously doesn't need to carry with him.
That he's using infrequently, so he doesn't need to have them on himself all of the time. He could have a secondary ring.
Sure, but
right?
So my stretch in the analogy though is that he never processed past the confusion of what to do with the damn key.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you were describing it to me, it almost felt like some people hold events and relationships or things that have happened in the past, they hold on to them and they never really resolve them because they don't know what to do with them. And it kind of reminded me of that confusion thing, because at that mode you're confused. You don't really know what to do with it, so you don't let it go. So instead of solving a problem, you just kind of keep it around because you really don't know what to do with it. Yeah. I think a lot of people do that as they get older. If they're not healthy in developing a reaction from an event like a relationship or an event like someone dying or something like that, you can carry that thing. I know people who carry a lot of weird things with them, and it comes out in very negative ways. So that was my grasp as that, and the confusion kind of tied that together, because it's a confusing time when you don't know how to process something that like an event.
Yeah, and then
you may not be ready to discard it necessarily.
Yeah, very good point too.
But it has to live somewhere, essentially, like an emotional state. It has to be compartmentalized somewhere,
like purgatory.
Yeah. and with the analogy of the keys, it could be a key that you use regularly and then something changes and it's now going to be an infrequently used key, or one that can be discarded altogether, just like you were getting at with relationships, for example.
Yeah, or an event, like a tragic event in your life. You know, I when I was in early 20s, a really good friend of mine killed himself. And I really took it hard, and it took a long time for me to let go of that, and I carried it into a lot of things, and even to this day, sometimes it shapes the way I look at some of my friendships with people, but it's hard to let go of those things. Certain things, like people have bad relationships and they can never have a good relationship after, because now they're blaming everybody for what happened or something. They're carrying that event through with them, like the key. The key doesn't do anything anymore. It really should just be tossed away. But for some reason, you feel safe having it there with you for whatever connection that is.
And they try to use it in the new situation,
or just having it there, just because it's familiar, I guess. Mm-hmm.
But the safety thing was a whole other angle too, because that again, something that makes you feel comfortable having is that's the emotional reaction. I was going on more off of confusion, but you're right. If it makes you feel more prepared, or like all the crap I used to carry,
right,
or more safe, then that's definitely playing off of an emotional reaction that can continually manifest itself each time you acquire a new key or whatever. So you're right, that can definitely be the repeating emotion over and over again. You also brought up the relationship thing, which was the next example I was going to get into. In the case of the key is just a silly minor thing. It's supposed to represent something simple in our lives that we, it's a key. How really important is it? However, it can have a small effect, and it can be a good example of how this small situation can actually manifest itself into bigger things with bigger problems, or bigger, not really problems, but bigger events or experiences in your life. Take, for example, what if you get dumped by someone that you are right at the pinnacle point when you're really starting to develop strong emotions for them, and it's a situation where they just leave you abruptly and don't tell you enough or anything about why they're leaving you, and you can't figure out why it ended when everything seemed so like it was going so well. Everybody gets stuck in this situation at some point. But the next time you find yourself in that situation, you may be less likely to allow those feelings to develop, because of how you never got a chance to finish processing the reason that you were rejected the last time. That is, a lot of people will identify already as emotional baggage, but that's how it happens. That's the confusing part, or the just the unfinished processing that you never got a chance to complete. And now that recalled memory, if it happens once, twice, I mean, it depends on how tragic or dramatic the situation was. Maybe it takes 3 times, maybe it only takes 1 time, becomes a preemptive emotional reaction to this new situation you're in. So, as a result, because you can't figure out how to let it go, you can't love anymore or find it much more difficult under those circumstances. It can also manifest itself in ways that apply to life or work goals or just achievements that you're trying to, or challenges that you're trying to overcome in life. Perhaps if you have experienced too many failures over and over and over again, same thing, it will kind of reiterate itself over and over and over again, and you keep repeating that same same bad reaction to the failure, and the next thing you know, you can't succeed at all because you're just too caught up in the fear of that repeated failure. Let's see. Now, where was I going with this? I kind of lost my train of thought here. I started thinking of my failures, man.
Yeah, you're carrying too many keys, man. You got to get rid of some of those failure keys.
That's it. Yeah, really. Knowing which topics to go with and which subject to, how you want to cover each subject is definitely too many keys, right? Let's see. So feeding into these types of situations can lead to all kinds of irrational fears, constant anxiety, feeling sad, down. I mean, all of these things can, after so many years of repeating them over and over again, can manifest themselves in much bigger problems that can be easier to solve than just than medication or years of therapy, or harder, more what's the word I'm looking for? More aggressive tactics by which to attack them, right? And it makes it kind of difficult to figure out what the root cause of that was, because it's been masked by so many years of go back to the key thing. I don't know why I keep these keys, because it's been so many years of being confused whether or not to keep the key or throw it away. I just keep them, so that's what I do with them.
I think that goes back to people having a real fear of change. If you get rid of that key, that's a definite. You can live in the maybe or kind of I don't really know, and back again to where you were mentioning the confusion. You're confused about it, so the best way to handle it is to not do anything. And a lot of people do that with emotions and events in their life. They don't really know what to do or how to process it, so they just don't do anything. And that does get carried into other parts of relationships or future events too. When you brought up the key thing, it was crazy because years ago I always carry, there's my keys. It's probably more than the average person, but I have a shop, I have different vehicles, the house, all that stuff. So I've tried to break it down as much as I can, but it used to be worse. And a buddy of mine said one time, he's like, man, you get rid of some of those keys. It's too much stress. And yes. I was like, stress? And I was like, I thought about that. And I started looking through those keys, and I was like, yeah, because all these keys are something you're responsible for.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I'm going at here.
Yeah, and it may also be people's inability to let go, right? Just like with the relationship analogy and the key analogy, at one point that key was important.
Oh, right? It was probably something that you used every single day, just like that person that was in your life every single day. It was an everyday, all the time thing. Mm-hmm. I can't get rid of the ignition key to my truck. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, so I want to respond to the important thing. If the pattern if it's a pattern and it's being repeated, maybe that first key that you didn't know what to do with was important at mm-hmm. one time. Maybe it's not now. Whatever, but kind of the point behind behind emphasizing that it's a learned behavior that gets repeated over and over again is that as new keys come, maybe it never was important at all. Yet because the learned response is to do with it what you did before, that's kind of part of the problem. That increases the burden that you carry every day unnecessarily. Mm-hmm. And you don't know that you're doing it because you're only doing it because you're used to putting it with the rest of the keys. That's the important part. That's the point behind going through the key ring and eliminating all the keys, is because there's probably a lot in there that you never needed. You just reacted that way and kept it that way because that's what you're used to doing with it. Emotional baggage can be very much the same way. Things that we carry in our lives maybe are not even that important. It's just kind of like people who take on responsibility that they don't need to take on. It's like, why are you doing that? Why are you adding the stressor into your life? And that's exactly where I wanted to go with this. Is glad you brought that term up, into your life, that you don't need to add. And sometimes we get so used to taking on extra or taking on burdens that we probably shouldn't, don't need to, or have no business doing, that it ends up in the long run making having a heavy effect on us, right? Just because that's the learned response.
What responsibilities are you talking about there? The extra work you're taking on?
I mean, it depends on the individual, right? It can be
volunteering when you don't really have the time, to taking on an extra pet, or saying you'll help out with your grandparents and you really can't because of your job. I mean, I'm kind of guilty of doing that once in a while. I like helping my friends. And so sometimes I've definitely extended myself where I'm really spread thin.
Okay, and
it's stressful.
That's a good example of helping somebody. That's a real, I mean, obviously that's a positive reason to do it, but what if it's what if it's a situation where you're doing things for somebody that they can do it themselves? They don't need the help. You just see that they're having a problem doing it. You're like, dude, I'll take care of that. Now you've added on a new stressor, a new burden, a new weight to your life. Maybe it's for just a few minutes. Maybe it's something that lasts 6 months. Who knows? That you didn't need to do. If you happen to be in the habit of that and helping others, that's one avenue of it, right? There's other ways that you could be taking things on in your life that you don't need to take and are just weighing you down and making your life heavier. But it's definitely a good one, because some people have that problem. They won't say no. They just keep taking more and more on until it's to their own detriment, and that's not healthy. Similarly, I imagine it could work in reverse too. If your reaction all the time is that you won't do anything for anyone, that in and of itself could be a negative in your life that compounds itself as you carry more of that burden, so to speak, the never doing anything for anyone, and you it can manifest itself kind of inwards, that you feel like crap. You don't matter. You don't do anything for anyone. So there's other ways that could be flipped around, I suppose.
Yeah, earlier when I had mentioned the thing about my ignition key for my truck, the reason I brought that up is when Rick, earlier, you were talking about how maybe at one point that was something that was every day, a part of you every day. And this is something I know a lot of people won't relate to, but I have trained myself to think this way. I use this key every single day. It's super important to me, but a year from now it might not be, and I should be okay with that, because you're transitioning to something else, or maybe you got a different car, or you got a different this, or a different job, or whatever. And I think a lot of people have problems. Humans have a hard time transitioning from one event to another, so a lot of times we want to carry a souvenir in some way, and I think a lot of times that souvenir is an emotional attachment that we're not able to release. But I think the exercise with the key, though, is an amazing exercise that I would challenge to anybody who would be listening to us. Is like, for me, it was the stress thing. And when somebody said, man, you don't need all that stress, and I was like, how are these keys stressful? And I was like, well, I'm responsible for this and this and this, and I got this. And, it's like, I thought, wow, and it was kind of crazy. So I decided then to sort letting go of some of those things. And just like when we were talking about the wallet, my buddy had the back problem because of the wallet, and I was like, I don't even put my wallet in my back pocket. I travel a lot. It's in my front pocket. And then I'm like, I don't want it to be a book. I need my ID, and I don't even put money in my wallet. So it basically just holds my ID and maybe a credit card.
Yep. Mine's a very very minimal
minimalist
amount. Amount in my wallet as well. Let me give you, Rick, another example of an area where I believe, for me, putting something that was definitely putting weight on my shoulders and a burden on my mind every time I watched it, so I no longer watch it. The news. Mm-hmm. Nothing but bad news over and over and over and over again. I don't know if I've said it before on the podcast or whatever, but I haven't had publicly transmitted information other than the internet into my home for the last decade. No AM, FM radio, no over-the-air television, no cable, no satellite. I just don't care about that stuff. I got Netflix, I got movies, I got video games if I want to watch something and veg out in front of the television. But I don't care to watch the news. And for 10 years, I haven't watched the news. And even
you're a better man because of it.
Yeah. So that was the problem. Is all it ever did was make me feel bad about something,
or mad,
or afraid, or scared. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's what I just said. Never mind.
But that's what it does. That's the purpose.
All this stuff did was basically add emotional burden and a baggage to my life every day that I watched it. I never changed anything because of the stuff that I saw. If I didn't like something, what was I going to do? I'm not running for political office. I'm not going to make a difference. All I'm doing is consuming this burden and putting it on my shoulder day in and day out, shoulders. And it was just all negative for me. And I have never missed it in the last decade. Not once.
You're absolutely. I'm in the same boat with you when it comes to that. I unfortunately live in a situation where the other person I live with has the TV on a lot for white noise because they work from home. And so it's on a lot. And in the evenings, I can't, it's like it pulls you in. It's a magnet. It'll suck you to it. And
Yeah.
like, it's the horrible local news.
Yep.
And it's just, I have to turn around and walk away. But it affects my day. It totally, every time I see the news, I get a little angry.
Yeah, it's a stressor for sure. It can definitely be a stressor. And that's kind of what the whole point behind thinking about what you can eliminate in your life is ultimately for me was eliminating stressors, things that just made life that much harder. That why am I worried about this when I really don't need to worry about this? You know, be it keys in your pocket or you know, any of the other stuff, or even the people forcing you to take a look at your life and people that are in it and start thinking, man, is this person who is I don't know how else to put it, but like a heavy weight, you know, in your life, is this person really worth the trouble? What am I getting out of? And it may sound a little selfish, but this is your life and your emotional well-being. What am I getting out of the relationship that I have with this person, or friendship, whatever you want to call it? And is it benefiting me emotionally, or is it really hurting me emotionally? Because that's ultimately where I wanted to go with this analysis, is not only are you eliminating things physically, this physical weight that you're carrying, can you also eliminate emotional weight that is creating baggage in your life, and that you can, to improve the quality of your life? In the circumstances where weights are people you take care of and support, like maybe your children or your sick mother or something like that's a whole different story, or your elderly grandparents or whatever. That's not the kind I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who just don't bring any value or any positive benefit to your life.
Kind of like someone that's negative all the time and just wants to complain and harp on you about how you're doing something wrong or how life is unfair to them.
Yeah, or if you got somebody mooching off of you, or you're in a relationship where it's one way, you're putting everything into it and you're not getting anything out. I mean, that is a huge, huge weight on your life every day. And if you can't first identify that it is, then the next step is to identify the problems that it's causing in your life. You're not going to make any efforts to get out of it and get it away from you. Sometimes you got to be told that it's, hey, this is a problem. Okay, wow, now it's a problem. Cool, I've recognized that it's a problem. Now I got to do something about it, because I didn't at first realize that was what was causing me maybe a lot of stress or a little bit of stress, whatever. Like carrying a bunch of keys, yeah. I know it doesn't.
But I think it's a great analogy towards that direction, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not going to work for everybody, and it's not going to be applicable to everyone. Like you said, you've got multiple places that you have to be every day, and you need that many keys. You can only reduce so far, obviously. The point is to, let's see, what did I say here? I lost track of my notes here. The point was that you realize that, like everything else, it's one step at a time, even if it's just as simple as one key off the ring at a time. But the important part is that it leads to a re-examination of one's life, and that it sets off an active effort to lighten the load of said person's life, be it the elimination of physical burdens or emotional burdens. And for the deeper issues that are holding you back, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to attempt to make
psychoanalysis on your future in life.
I'm not going to attempt to give you a psychological advice. I am not a psychologist, but in my perspective, if you can first recognize that there's a problem and then identify the cause, I mean, hell, that's two major steps towards solving any problem, and or in this case, improving your life by eliminating possible stressors.
Yeah, but we talked about this before on different topics. It does take a lot for people to really look into themselves and really examine those things. And I think being a healthy human being, you have to, at least as you get older, I feel like you have to teach yourself how to let go of some things, how to identify why these need to be away, and not spend so much time lingering on some of these things. Like I said, I mean, I have friends that they linger about things that happened 30 years ago. And I'm like, my God, how does that affect you today? Well, I think about it. Why? Why don't you go outside and look at the blue sky and think about how bright it is outside? Yeah,
it's definitely a skill, and it is like every other skill. It's honed over time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons when I bring up these kind of topics, I like presenting it with something stupidly simple, like anybody can pull keys off their key ring, or any number of other, things that you have that you carry with you on a daily basis that you might not need to carry. I'm sure any girl with a big purse with a whole bunch of crap in it can go through and pick out 5 out of the 100 items or whatever that she probably doesn't need to carry with her every day. And once you pull out enough of those items and you can reduce the size of your purse, you're going to notice that difference. And I can't really imagine it being a negative,
Right.
when you're carrying it when you go from a 3-pound purse to a 1-pound purse, or whatever, pick a number.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that being a negative thing for you unless inevitably what'll end up happening is that he told me to take out this crap. Now I don't have the blue rouge that I used to have.
That's why
and
I
I
don't
need
throw
it now.
That's why I don't throw anything away.
Oh,
Because 2 weeks later, I'm like, I had that for 10 years and I just threw it away 2 weeks ago.
See, and this is where Rick touches on the hoarding, bit of the hoarding nature. But I think that's a whole separate thing.
But you don't need that emotion.
Yeah,
You can get rid of
exactly.
something.
Ultimately, I wanted it to be a metaphor for things that we carry with us emotionally that we don't, you might not need or might not be as important as you actually thought
Not
it was.
half a bag of cat litter you had behind the something that's been there for 9 years because you don't know why.
Yeah,
I might need that for something.
If you've got random stuff, oh man, that's always the weirdest thing when you're driving down the freeway and you see somebody who's got that car that's completely stacked, every seat all the way to the back window with just looks like trash, just papers and. What the hell, dude? Like,
Can you imagine what they look like inside their head?
Actually, never thought that far. First thing I thought was wonder what their house looks like.
That could be their house.
Okay, I don't even know how because they could barely sit in the car to drive it. How are you going to
true.
sleep in that thing? I mean, I guess if you slept and lived sitting in the seat,
Sitting
just
in a sitting position.
Wow. That's obviously way beyond, hey, you're just carrying too much, buddy. Like, yeah, you're really carrying too much, but I think you got a bigger problem. That OCD is making you really hold on to that stuff.
You're going to have to get rid of a lot of keys to improve your life.
Yeah. And maybe the differentiation there is that in the case of the keys and emotional experiences, emotional reactions to experiences, these are functional things that we carry. We use them. When you are hoarding trash, you're not carrying functional things. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear, and if you could justify this, if you guys know any hoarders and they want to write in, if you could justify why keeping the 3-week-old pizza box is functionally important to your life, however you justify it or come up with anything, I want to hear. I want to know how you have made it important to you. I don't believe that I believe that may be the differentiation, is that the people I'm referring to or the situations I'm referring to in life are the ones where you're keeping things that are functional parts of your life. Trash is.
Well,
I want to know how you found it to
right.
be a functional portion of your life.
Yeah.
That's
Well, a lot of those emotions can be trash too. I mean, and it's when we're talking about people carrying things. The phrase I always used to hear was "you're jaded." You're a very jaded person.
Jaded.
Jaded basically meant that you're holding on to a lot of bad experiences. You're not open for new opportunities. You've got this humdrum,
Closed-minded.
sadistic, like almost feel towards life where everything is bad, and you're just jaded. You're just and I think that's. I think a lot of people get in that mode, and I think a lot of it's because people, they don't want to really be honest with themselves, and maybe they don't have someone to be honest with or someone to help them through something, and they feel like alone, and again, go back to that confusion thing where they just don't really know what to do to take the next step. I mean, when I make statements to people about no matter what situation I'm in life, I've learned this maybe just because, just living, but no matter what I'm doing, at some point, I'm not going to be doing that anymore. Whether it's I'm driving right now, in 30 minutes I'm going to be sitting down, or whether it's I'm dating somebody and in 2 months from now I'm not going to be dating somebody, or whether I live in a city and a year from now I'm not going to live in a city. We are constantly evolving, changing, and moving, and that means not only our emotional state, but our physical state. And to be able to understand and control the differences between those and understand which ones are important ones to hold on to and which ones should be let go so that you can be healthy is a really tough thing to do for people. And I think sometimes when I make statements about how I feel like I'm pretty able to do that more than some people, I think people think I'm mean or callous.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm willing to I dated somebody who was super important to me. Well, they're not in my life now, so yeah, I have fond memories of them, but they don't mean anything to me.
That's an exact example of throwing away that key.
Exactly.
Is it helping you carrying it around? Maybe, maybe not. that's for you to make.
You're never going to open that door again.
Yeah, but
So
like you were getting at when you were saying people are accusing you of being kind of callous to that, you didn't necessarily just throw the key away like it was garbage, right?
Absolutely not.
That
no.
girlfriend was important to you, just like the key to your first car, right? And then when it was time for that to end, you addressed it healthily, and you both moved on. The car was sold or set on fire, whatever the fuck you did with it.
But identifying that it was no longer useful, that's the part we're talking about.
Right. But there's
Yeah.
a healthy way to end that relationship, right? And separate yourself from it, and you're not carrying that emotional baggage with you, or in this analogy, the key. Right?
Yeah.
I think the keys are a great analogy for what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Where I was kind of heading with that is because I learned, I've kind of started, not now, but very long ago in my life, I realized that things come and go, people come and go, and as much as we don't like that, or as much as it affects us, there's really nothing we can do about that. Mm-hmm. And I've had this conversation with a couple other friends before. We're like, I feel like, A, everything is an opinion, and B, we have control of maybe 10 to 15% of the things that happen around us. I mean, maybe we got 25%. Maybe. I don't know. I can't really make that choice because every time I feel like I'm in control, something dumb happens. Mm-hmm. Somebody cuts me off in traffic. I get a bill I didn't know about. I'm out of this, or there's always something you have to deal with. So you don't always have control over everything, and not having control over everything is okay. And I think sometimes people feel like that maybe they hold on to those emotions because they need to control that. They need to feel like they, did something or helped something, or something was important and it was because of them, or they're placing themselves too deep into the involvement of whatever that was, and not being able to let go.
And I believe that also on the other half of that is that they don't understand or believe or accept that they are in control of their emotions, and how that and the weight that situation puts on their lives. And they don't necessarily have to react at all.
They have the ability to react to anything. I can tell you that one of our best friends died, and you can either fall on your back and lose your shit, or you can go, okay, I need to process this and figure out what to do with this.
Or you can be happy for them.
Or you can be happy for them. If they were in pain and now they're out, you're like, man, I've had people that I knew that have had horrible diseases, and when they passed away, I felt a little bit of relief for them. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to say that to the average person. My friend died, and I was really happy about it. Well, what the hell would you say something like that for? Well, because he had cancer and he couldn't even breathe.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's looking at the bigger picture.
Definitely. So anyway, it gives everyone a little something to think about, hopefully. And just to reiterate again, it's like everything else, like every other learned skill. It takes practice, takes time, it takes starting off small. And if you listen to the emotions episode, it's another great example of how of a situation like this where you can get a lot done, and you have a lot more control of yourself and your life once you learn to manipulate it in the right way. But the first step is just being told that you can, and then start off simple, and it'll grow and get bigger, and you'll get stronger, and you'll get better at it.
Get rid of one key, just one.
Yeah, that's right. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until next time, travel light. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.